Okay, we'll call the meeting in order. The Newman City Council and Redevelopment Agency of May 22nd, 2007. Please stand for the pledge and the invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please bow your heads. Lord, we ask that you please touch us with the knowledge and guidance to do what is best for the citizens of this community, and we ask this in your name. Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Ed. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Caton?
Present.
Councilmember Kelly?
Present.
Councilmember Krinkle?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Martina?
Present.
Mayor Fantasia?
Present. Declarations of conflicts of interest. See none this evening. We have one ceremonial matter proclaiming June Long-Term Care Awareness Month. I'm going to move on over to the podium real fast. I'd like to declare this as Long-Term Care Month, Awareness Month in the City of Newman. Make an easy choice today instead of a tough choice tomorrow. We have some guests this evening that are going to explain what this program is all about. Thank you for coming. Just introduce yourself and here's some proclamation and welcome and thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mayor and City Council members, I want to take this opportunity principally to thank you on behalf of the Department of Health Services for recognizing and acknowledging this so very important issue, long-term care, which is something regrettably that a lot of us don't have in our radar screens, and yet it affects so many families. We as the children of our parents who are in need of care, or our own children, as we begin to age and our conditions begin to deteriorate, the emotional and financial issues that come to place when this happens are insurmountable in many cases, particularly when you take note of the fact that in this county, the average daily private pay rate for nursing facility care is $189 a day. It's about $68,000 per year. That's not something that many of us can afford to handle on an extended basis. At any rate, Mr. Mayor and council members and the City of Newman, I want to thank you all for acknowledging again and recognizing this so very important issue, and extend an invitation to all of you to attend a free seminar that we have for everyone that wishes to attend in Modesto, City of Modesto, on June 2nd at 10:30. So we invite you to be there and look forward to seeing you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We have some handouts up here, if anybody would like to get any before they leave, that has the date and time on it. And again, thank you very much. I'd just like to acknowledge Linda Murdoch from Patterson, my own personal advisor, financial advisor, that brought this to my attention, and she set this ceremonial matter up, and I appreciate it very much. Items from the public. Non-agenda items. If anybody has anything they'd like to bring before us that is not on the posted agenda, now would be the time. See no one. Agenda items. When the item comes before us and you'd like to comment, please come to the podium, state your name and address, and try to keep your comments to under 3 minutes. We have no public hearings this evening. Consent calendar. Approval of warrants. Approval of minutes of the May 8th, 2007 regular meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull warrant 32223 to Mark Crinklaw, my son.
Okay. With that pulled, there's no other things to pull. Could I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that's 4-1 with one abstaining. Regular business, item A, interview and appointment of member to fill vacancy on the Parks and Rec Commission.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight we have two members of our Parks and Recreation here tonight. Unfortunately, we don't have any applicants.
Sounds like last time.
Yeah, with that, we did have one withdrawal of application, and that was Phyllis Peeler. So we have currently one application in the queue right now, and we can either go forward with that one and try to get him here at the next meeting. As you know, as you saw in your packages, we did attach the letter that we had sent both applicants. That was a long time gone. Maybe May 14th, I believe the date was for this particular meeting. So at the discretion of the council, staff can either re-agendize this, the council can move forward with this one potential applicant, or we can re-advertise and seek additional applicants. So with that, staff would seek direction from the council.
I'd kind of like to go ahead with the applicant since we only had one. We had one withdraw, Mr. Romo. I believe he's late because he's coaching baseball. That's what I understood from the last game. From the last meeting. Do you know if that's correct, Michael?
He had a game last night because I played against him last night.
Okay.
So I don't know how many teams he coaches, though. He may be coaching more than one team.
Okay. That would be what I would like to do, but I'll open it up for the rest of the council.
I'll concur with you, Mr. Mayor. I think we should move ahead.
I concur.
Concur.
Would somebody like to make that into a motion then?
I'll make it a motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor of this appointment of the Rec Commission?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Copy of the, oh, okay. Sure. You bet. Thank you. Item B, adopt resolution number 2007, next to number, authorizing the appropriation of LTF funds CMAQ project for fiscal year 0607.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. As stated in the staff report, Public Works Department has applied for CMAQ funds in an effort to continue with our sidewalk infill project. The project limits are the south side of Kern Street from M to Balsam Drive, and then the south side of Driscoll from Balsam to Eucalyptus Avenue. These areas were originally included in the CMAQ application of 2001, but they weren't completed due to the lack of available monies at that time. So we want to continue on with the project. Under the fiscal impact, we have total project costs. That should be total project monies available, and that's $113,795. And it calls for a local LTF a local match of $11,709, which we want to get from the LTF funds that we have available in our budget. So our staff recommendation is that you authorize the allocation of LTF funds to be used for local match monies, and we can continue with our project. Any questions?
Questions from the council? Everybody, I'm sure, from reading the staff reports, understands what CMAQ stands for. If there's no questions, thank you, Ernie.
Thank you.
Some direction?
I would move to approve adoption of resolution number 2007, next to number, authorizing appropriation of LTF funds CMAQ project for fiscal year 2006-2007.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Item C, adopt resolution number 2007, next to number, awarding bid for the Pioneer Park Rehabilitation Project.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. We are currently working on the Pioneer Park Rehabilitation Project. We opened the bids yesterday at 3 o'clock. We advertised in Modesto be on May 8th, advertised for about 2 weeks. The work includes designing the project plans, build out of those plans, the replacement of the restroom facilities and new playground equipment. We're going to make everything ADA compliant and more child friendly. It won't be sand anymore. It'll be bark, or if they fall, they'll be more protected, obviously. I had numerous potential bidders. At the time of my staff report, 3 had called, but I think I had a total of about 6 phone calls, but only 1 bid was submitted the day of the opening. Permagreen Hydro Seeding Incorporated put in a bid in the amount of $227,637. The fiscal impact, we have CDBG allocated monies for this. $161,000 for the 06-07 fiscal year, which will be expended immediately and upon your approval, and $70,000 allocated for the 07-08 fiscal year. Staff recommends the awarding of the bid to Permagreen Hydro Seeding Incorporated.
So that comes out to 231,000 if you figure out
Mhm.
both of those. So
There'll be a little bit of change.
this is, well, in budget, I don't remember the original amount that we had figured that way back when we first talked about this, but
Yeah, there's a combination of projects over the last over the two funding cycles that we've had with CDBG. We stand around $685,000, give or take, and we've done the teen center. We've awarded the bid for $206,000 for YOLO. There would be this project, and then we have one more project that we're going to start working on, and that is removal and replacement of some archaic either water or sewer lines within our historic district. And that's the last project, so we'll keep moving that project forward. So, and if I may, I just wanted to, because we were under time considerations on moving this project forward, we'd like you to award the bid tonight and allow staff the flexibility to work on a final design for the playground equipment for the Pioneer Park. We'd like to take that to our Parks and Rec Commission, and we'd also just want to make sure that we're getting a lot of the instruments and the playground equipment that we want there. He came up with two good ideas on his own, but he didn't, based on staff time considerations and just fair practice, we couldn't give him details on exactly what we wanted. But if you award the bid on a not to exceed amount, we can work with him on some designs for that playground equipment. Also, there's a layout in there for the restroom facilities that you'll see in there, and that's all going to be graffiti proof on there. I think we have some of those slides up here. Here's one of the potential playground equipments that he shows. That's a possibility out there. This is the latest Landscape Structures Inc. Landscape Structures Inc. is a major playground equipment manufacturer in the United States. This is through Ross Recreation Equipment. This is their newest contraption, if you will. As you can see, there's lots of climbing elements on there. It doesn't really give a 3D effect, but there's really a slide on the background as well. This was option one. We, at this particular time, tend to see option two a little bit better, but if you hold it right here, you can see the big climbing equipment kind of on the, to the left there. In this particular area, these little ones here are those like sawhorses that you go back and forth on, that the young kids go back and forth on. You got a teeter-totter over here, and you have swings over here. This is the current configuration of that playground area. One of the other things that this contract calls out for is, there's sand in here in this particular area, and then the asphalt just kind of goes up to the sand. He will put a concrete, I don't even know, a curb type thing, yeah, that's going to hold the asphalt in place and then keep the bark in there as well. All the sand will be excavated. He'll put like a little dry well in the bottom, and then he'll put in 12 inches of the playground fiber bar is what they call it.
like what's it, Sherman Park?
Yeah, that's like what's at Sherman Park on there as well. So my conversations with Mitch Chuck, I think everyone knows Mitch Chuck from our industrial park project. He's the warden or Permagreen. This could be done prior to Fall Festival.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah, this can be done prior to Fall Festival, he believes. It takes about 30 days to get the equipment and all that, so that could very well be done.
Just the playground equipment, not the restroom.
Well,
facility.
we're going to try hard to get the restroom facility done as well, but getting the design through plan check and all the other stuff, there's time constraints on that one, so we're not exactly sure. The thing with the restroom facility, though, is not as critical to be in place at Fall Festival due to the fact that porta potties are used during that event.
Yeah, we don't have them open. So.
Yeah, so from that perspective, this would be the critical piece for the Fall Festival, in my opinion. The second piece is not quite as critical, but we would try to have that done too, so we would have two finished pieces there. The third component to this and it's not in this bid package, and we'll have to go back and look at it, is an upgrade of the electrical system in the park.
Yeah, we talked about that. I mean, we always get overloaded. We get vendors and arts and
Right.
crafts people plugging in
Right.
everything but the kitchen sink and blowing stuff as our
And
crews
part
know.
also what we talked about is there are communities, I believe Morgan Hill most recently when I talked to him, was You can set each, right now we have electrical outlets in the park. So if you rent a space, you can go out there and put your jump house in there and put
Right.
a ghetto blaster and all the other things. Well, technically they could run that all day. There are ways to set that up where they're on timers. For that one single box is operational, and you say you get that from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Right.
And the electricity runs from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. in there, and then it stops. So that way you don't have this recurring cost of people, for lack of a better word, stealing the electricity and going forward. Now, that's something we can talk about. That's the potential. That's not necessarily what we're going to do, but we need to have that conversation. And if we did go down that route, is it 8 to 5? Is it, we could set up some parameters. So we think electrical is a critical component to renting out facilities in the park, and it needs to be provided there, but we want to make sure that it's justifiable under the current rates and those types of things. So,
Michael, on equipment, do they have any warranty as far as the number of years that they feel?
I'm not sure what the standard warranty is, but I can get that information for you. Again, if you go around playgrounds a lot, and somehow I seem to find myself around them because of my kids, you'll see Landscape Structures Inc. is probably 70 to 80% of the playgrounds out there. It's just a first-class facility over here. This is the other playground structure that he came up with, and one of the main components on this particular one that I like is the shade canopy structure. And you get that out there in the summer. It's a critical piece. I mean, there are trees out there, but anyone who's been in the valley heat during the summer knows it's nice to have some shade out there as well. Another climbing component over here on this particular side of slides. You'll just see lots of different areas that children can play out there. And if any of you have spent any time at Sherman Park, you can get 20, 30, 40 kids in those particular playgrounds, and they're not running over each other, and they're having fun, and there's lots of different things to do. And that's what we identify over here in this particular area here. So again, this is two ideas that Ross Recreation Equipment came up with, but we can work with them, work with our Recreation Commission on what are key components for a playground structure at Pioneer Park. And if we go to the next slide, again, this is just kind of the layout here. Again, swings we have over here. We have those rocking horses. Those rocking horses are about $1,500 a pop. So, yeah, they're about $1,500 a pop.
spring?
Yeah.
By a real horse, but then you got to feed it.
They got a butterfly. A real
Oh yeah. You look at him, and he was telling me, he's like, if cost becomes a major
Sure, they
consideration, you can always look at those.
And by oath, so
Yeah.
it'd be your job too to.
So at that, we're at this time recommending that the council go with the option 2, which is the cost of $227,637 on there. And again, that's a significant, pulled out all the sand, puts in the concrete barrier around the rim around it to hold it all in place. Replacement swings. I learned that through the Sherman Park one that kids like swings, so you got to get the swings back in there somehow. And a significant playground structure here, so.
I think it's a great idea, especially during the fall festival. That the playground area there is nice, but it seems like that sand. If we get a windy day and it blows, towards the vendors and stuff, it's kind of ugly.
That's
So.
the real issue are the cats. They go
The cats. There you go. The wind and the cats.
This is a layout of the restroom facility here, based upon really the amount of use that we get. 2 water closets is sufficient to handle the need on a regular basis that's out there. And so you have one handicap up here, handicap. Circles show the handicap accessibility. That's all cinder block in there, except for the barricades here and here. Those are not cinder block, because what happens is this is a concrete floor with drains, so you can get in there and water hose them down. And they put this mix in the concrete so that urine doesn't stain the floor and it washes right off. It doesn't seep into the concrete. So, but if you put the masonry here, the masonry barriers, when you wash that out, all it does is pop up on those walls. So it makes it. And so you go with these barricades instead. So, and then we have a little chase closet in the middle again for storage of facilities. And I believe, I didn't measure out the size, but we were allowed to add 20% increased in size over our existing facility. So that's what we asked for, and that's what we'll probably get. Most of that would probably be in the chase area itself for equipment and supplies.
So it's probably about, maybe a hair bigger than the one at Sherman, or about the same size?
No, it'll
Little
be
bigger?
closer to the size of Pioneer. It's just a little bit bigger.
Okay.
I mean, 300, 20% isn't that much. 365 total square feet, is that what it was? So, it's not that big a park.
I think it's desperately overdue, especially those restrooms, or, we can't have them open because, the old facilities, they just destroy them. So this is definitely needed, and electricity also.
Yeah.
And we'll try to minimize, obviously, during the fall festival, because I will be the person that gets yelled at if things are tore up and things aren't working. So always remember that.
Stephanie, I've got a question for you. Since we only received one bid, what reassurance do we have that that's within the right parameters of what we should be looking at as far as cost? We had landscape bids put out here not too long ago, and we got from exorbitant to very cheap. So what reassurances do we have here?
Well, as Michael had mentioned earlier, that the equipment is the major cost of this project, and he did not give us an itemized list per equipment, but he did give just the cost of, the concrete playground curb, the FIBAR, and then the grading and equipment. So the majority of the cost is simply the playground equipment. It's almost half. It's $88,807. So I understand your concern, and we advertised for 2 weeks in Modesto B, and as I said, I had gotten a few phone calls, but it seemed like no other people had put in a bid. I had spoken to people, and they had not given a price, obviously, because they didn't know how much. They didn't have a bid packet ready, so they didn't propose it.
So, Councilman, what I can tell you is playground equipment at Sherman, $77,000 for the big structure, $50-some thousand for the smaller structure, because there's two structures out there. $88,000, and then you're throwing in swings. It's pretty consistent with that pricing. The restroom facilities at Sherman were $115, Ernie, about $115,000 for the restroom facilities over there, and this restroom facility is less than $100. And this one's made out of cinder block. The other one was prefabricated, so it's $115. And then you got to have cranes and all the other things come in and do those things. So it's ballpark and pretty competitive to what we paid for Sherman.
Amazing, absolutely amazing what it cost. Or disheartening, I guess would be a better term rather than amazing. Thank you, Stephanie.
Plus, I'm sure we'll get Mitch to throw in a little electricity and, a little
Well, and the other
electrical
thing
work
is-
on the side there for charity.
Yeah, and the thing you have to remember is we're subject to Davis-Bacon. We're subject to prevailing wage.
Yeah, exactly.
So, just double any costs that the private sector can do it for, and that's about what we're getting charged.
But if you take their money
Need
from
to swallow
grants,
it all.
that's what you have to do.
That's right.
Any further questions? If not, direction?
I would move to adopt resolution number 2007 X number, award bid for Pioneer Park Rehabilitation Project in the amount of $227,637.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Item D, adopt resolution number 2007, next number, authorizing the replacement purchase of patrol car. Did we just buy a car, Chief? No.
Yes, we did, Mayor.
I thought we did.
You ruined that one that was not there already. No, no. I'd like to get another one just like it. Mayor, members of the council, each year, one patrol car in our fleet is earmarked for replacement. And for fiscal year 0708, the next car that's going to be replaced is Unit 02, which is tired and worn out, as I described in my staff report. In the proposed budget, which is being prepared by the city manager, I've requested $35,600 neighborhood for a replacement of the patrol car. However, we located another Dodge Charger, just like the one we just purchased, that's at the dealership right now with an out-the-door price of $30,700.
So if council is willing to take action tonight and augment the department's budget by that amount in lieu of replacing the car in 0708, we can save the citizens $5,000 if we act quickly.
So,
I'd be
yeah.
happy to answer any questions.
Technically, we're just expediting this and taking the money out of, for next year's budget, loaning the money to department for now to, unless you're going to want another one after July, or.
Well,
There will be a third
I'll
one, or-
entertain the motion. But
I
yes,
think I
what we're
understand,
going
yeah.
to do,
We're just-
we would just
Right.
move it up
To this year.
a month.
And it'll be out of next year's budget.
It'll be out of next
And
year's
we're
budget.
saving almost $5,000.
Exactly right.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Chief, I've got a question.
yes,
Our 2002 model only has 67,000 miles on it.
yes, correct.
And it's basically worn out, a lot of problems with it. The warranties on new cars now, Chevrolet's 100,000 miles. Do we get that warranty as a police car, or is that void because of that?
I don't know of any warranty for police vehicles up to 100,000 miles. And
So
I
that's-
don't know if that can be purchased or not. I'd be happy to look into extended warranty and the cost of it if it's so offered. But the O2 is out of warranty, I know that.
The point that I'm getting at, though, is any new Chevrolet vehicle has a 100,000 mile warranty on it.
Okay.
Does that apply to us as a police department so that we shouldn't have any repairs on that over the life of the car? Basically, we're only putting 13 to 17,000 miles a year on it.
The problem is Chevy's not in the police business.
Yeah.
The-
a lot of the cars and the vehicles that you purchase for police work tend to be a little bit more heavy duty, so they're not your typical off the line patrol car. Maybe the suspension's a little bit
They
heavier.
tend to come with a standard 1 year
36,000 or
Yeah.
something like that, or I think 12,000 mile warranty. But typically, we always used to last minute get everything in before the warranty is and try to fix everything. Part of the problem, Chief can testify, is when you have different people driving the car, basically 24 hours a day, for the most part, they tend to get a lot of miles on them. Although that particular car has, for some reason, the O2 has been a problem car for us, and I don't know why.
Well, I have a suspicion it was probably made on a Friday.
There you go.
But I agree with you. A police chief wants 95,000 miles on that odometer before he replaces that vehicle. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Unfortunately, in this case, this car is just worn out and really isn't worth the gas to put into that car to run that odometer up to that 95,000 mile mark.
Are we gonna be able to salvage it all even as a lot of times get a few extra life out of it if we can use it as a detective car, a backup car, or whatever? Not in terms of patrol car, but
Right.
other uses. 'Cause I
Right.
mean, it's
I've-
not worth it.
Exactly. If we wholesale it out, we're going to get next to nothing. I've asked around, I asked the officers if it's something that we should keep in the fleet because we have a 99 with 116,000 miles that we use for a detective's car. And the detective said, no, I'd rather keep this car than take
Jesus.
O2.
Is that bad, huh?
I've tried to keep it in the fleet, but it is just tired and worn out. And it's,
Maybe the city
I wouldn't
manager
want
wants
to
to
drive
drive.
Well, there may be opportunities. We recently had a car refurbished and added to our fire department fleet.
Yeah.
So we'll take a look around other departments and see if there is any ways to salvage this thing at all. But once you start feeding money
What
into
about
it.
the community service officers? What's he gonna be driving?
right. We have a car earmarked for the community service officer. Right now, it's white, and we're going to put Newman Police Department markings on it. We're going to put an amber light on it. It will be differentiated from a patrol car because I don't want people looking at the community service officer and thinking him as a police officer. So we want to have him in a special uniform, in a special vehicle, so he's not confused as a police officer.
Further questions?
I was coming down Crow's Landing last week, and police, I'm trying, I don't get a ticket. I'm watching, and here comes a police car, and it really looked sharp. And it was a Newman police. It was the new car.
Ah, thank
Really-
you.
It really looked sharp. Really did. I mean, it looked impressive.
How
Well-
fast was it going, Ted?
Pulled you over?
No, he's-
Yeah, I want to know that answer too.
Yeah, no, I'm watching, trust me.
Well, and you bring up a great point, and that is people formulate an opinion of their police department based upon the equipment they have and the vehicles they're driving.
Yep.
And there's another car in the fleet that I wish we could move on, but that'll be next time,
Okay.
because it doesn't project a positive image that I would like to have project of the Newman Police Department.
This
Yeah.
definitely did. I was proud, to see that car. It
There you
really
go.
looked Good.
And I believe lots of members of the community are going to be proud when we get that car on the road.
Can I ask you a quick question? How's that officer that got hurt? Is he okay? Is anybody?
We'll talk about that a little bit in
Okay.
in
I was just
department
curious.
reports.
I mean, I've been to ask that before.
If there's no further questions, some direction?
I so move for adoption of resolution number 2007, next number, authorizing the replacement purchase of a patrol car not to exceed $30,700,
Yes,
and this would be taken from our next year's budget.
correct.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Chief, thank you very much. Take good care of it. Item E, land lease and tower access agreement with Regional 911.
Thank you, Mayor. City staff has received a request from the Stanislaus Regional 911 dispatch services to put 3 whip antennas up on our water tower, and also to put accompanying equipment on the site as well. And excuse me for I left that part out of your package, but if you look at your revised package, you do have the layouts and the like on there. As part of that, they're also requesting, again, the tough shed type facility to put the equipment in, and then a 10,000 BTU air conditioning unit to keep it at a constant temperature, not to exceed 80 degrees during the summertime, and also to ask the city to pick up the electrical costs that are associated with operating that equipment and the BTU system on there. So one of the things that we as a community are doing right now is researching potential other dispatch services. Currently, again, we are in a JPA, a Joint Powers Agreement with Modesto and Stanislaus County to utilize dispatch services that are located in Modesto right now. Other communities such as Turlock, I believe Ceres, Oakdale, they do provide dispatch services as well. The city of Gustine recently shifted from, I believe, their county, Merced County dispatch services to the city of Turlock. So our chief right now has gone over and talked to the chief of police in Turlock and is doing some research right now as to possibility of us moving over, what that cost would be, and the like. So, as I mentioned in our report, our costs have gone up from $93,000 a year to almost $140,000 a year
You want a more
in the last 3
want a more
years.
staggering number?
Yeah,
I remember when we first made the contract was $16,000.
yeah, and they're growing. In the meantime, see, Modesto has gone down, so. That's not to say that we're not providing good services. We are. What we need to do as a community, though, is really kind of take control of our costs that we're expelling for this particular service, and look at all of our options out there. If we go to a different dispatch service, there's going to be an equipment upgrade capital cost that we're going to have to outlay as part of this particular project. And that would go all the way down to patrol level, communications within the department, possibly even some aerial type equipment as well. So there will be a capital cost outlay that's exposed to this. It's just a matter of, okay, when you cost that out over a period of time, 5 and 10 years, which one makes more economic sense? And as you see cost escalating where we're at, they're jumping $7,000 to $10,000 just this year alone. you know, we need to start looking at those. I know the city of Gustine, I believe their contract is for roughly about $70,000 with the city of Turlock. Now, our chief, and speaking again with the chief in Turlock, it's all based on call volume, so we're looking at getting that information from Regional 911 and going over there, so, and taking that to Turlock and just kind of getting a cost basis analysis on there, so that's part of where we're at. I know Kirk Klein's here. He's from Regional 911, and he'll talk a little bit about the necessity for the county to upgrade a system. Lots of that is tied to, you know, the county sheriffs and making sure that they have proper coverage out here. And the surrounding areas around Newman have proper coverage, as well as Gary Henshaw from Consolidated Fire, you know, making sure that the fire departments have proper coverage out here. At this point in time, I have not heard anything from my previous chief or my current chief that we, as the community, have any issues with 911 calls right now, nor do our police departments. So, with that, I can answer any questions that you may have. Staff is recommending that we don't proceed forward with this until we continue to research all of our other options at this particular time. We may need that space on the tower. We just don't know what the future holds for us in terms of dispatch 911 fees, and with these costs that are escalating through the roof, you know, it's starting to eat into, you know, our ability. $40,000, that's half an officer on an annual salary. And that's what it's gone up in 2 years. So we don't know what the next 2 years are going to provide. So with that, you know, again, staff is recommending that we don't move forward on this until we can get some more information from our part on from the city of Turlock series. Also discuss this more in length with Regional 911 and the like. And so, you know, is it a land lease? What happens? What if we need that space back? There's just lots of factors in here that are unresolved at this particular time.
No, and Mike, I'd like to see a cost analysis, though, if they want us to absorb those costs. I'd like to see what it would cost to do that. I'm certainly not in favor of giving it to them for free, but, you know, I'd like to have an idea of what it would cost if we decide to go with this project, what it would cost to build this shed and to put the antennas, do all this other stuff. Again, I'm certainly not in favor of letting them do it for free.
Yeah, they would absorb the cost of putting. I mean, they don't absorb it; it passed on to the users, such as ourselves. I mean, ultimately, we pay our fair share of that. But I did send out a quick email to city managers in Houston, Riverbank, and Patterson to ask them if they had any equipment on their city buildings or spaces, and they indicated that they did not. So.
And probably the reason more being is because we're the farthest city to the west in the county, and we experience more radio problems in this part of the county than other people do.
Right.
Because of the repeaters on Mount Oso, there's one downtown Modesto, one in East County. So obviously it'd be a great benefit to them to have it out here.
Right, and they currently have 3 receivers on one of the AT&T towers right now, out I believe in the business park. So, but I think what they're proposing right now is the different technology, that not just a receiver. So.
We also have an antenna on the cell site out there that was put in place to help dispatch services on both Channel 1 and Channel 3, and with a T1 line that's running dispatch. It's a voting receiver machine that's in the cell site.
Yeah, and you know, we have a T1 line that comes into our building right now, this building right here from the county, and we pay like $200 a month rent on it. You know, it's pretty expensive. So.
Ed, when you first came on board here at Newman, how was dispatch handled for calls? Do you recall?
We had our own dispatch, and I don't remember the year, because it was a issue of hiring and retaining good people to maintain our own dispatch service. So I want to say it was like 1983, 4, somewhere along that time, was when we contracted with then Stanislaus County before it became Regional 911, because it requires a minimum of 5 people to run a 24-hour dispatch, I think, minimum. So there was personnel issues, you know, vacation, sick, all the kind of workers' comp things. So at the time, it was cheaper for us to contract, so we did, and those costs have just skyrocketed ever since. it was cheaper at the time, but
Right.
it didn't take long before. And even at one point in time, we even considered, we talked about whether or not we should bring back our own dispatch services, but it's just so costly and problematic with employees.
Well, I'd like to hear Mr. Klein if he'd like to give us a little update about if there's a problem with the AT&T tower. If you'd like to come up and, please. And what exactly, I know Ed, you talked about sometimes there's maybe some coverage problems, and maybe he can address that if we're still having those, being here on the, as Ed said, on the west side of the county here.
Yeah, that's correct. My name's Kirk Klein. I'm with Regional 911 Center. I'm a system engineer for the county and the city, the JPA. This project is, we call it the Interop project. It's basically designed to help all public safety agencies, including, the sheriff, county fire, EMS services, ambulance, hospitals, and install and improve our interoperability channels for the whole county and all of public safety to use. Our current radio system is old and antiquated, and we're working together to build our radio infrastructure out to include all agencies, and our current project would build out 14 radio channels, starting with our main site at Mount Oso, replacing repeaters, upgrading a bunch of the backbone equipment, main infrastructure there. Our other plans are to build out those same channels in City of Oakdale at their Station 2. We're installing it at the county jail facilities in Modesto. And our other top priority is City of Newman and this side of the county. A number of other sites have been identified as needing building out and improvement, including Patterson, Turlock, Ceres, on the east side of the county, LaGrange. So this is just a start of our plan to build out a public safety system that supports everybody and is not just for one agency. The monies for this project have been pulled together from different agencies, from fire services, from the police, from the OES.
If this was to happen, would the antennas on the AT&T tower be not needed anymore, or this would be in addition to, or?
Yeah, the current antenna. There's one antenna, and like council member said, there's 2 radio receivers there for SO only, channels 1 and 3. They're landline back to the county. They just provide help with the talk-in coverage from this area. The original lease agreement was 12 years ago through the city with McCaw at the time. That agreement has since expired. And, we would be replacing those receivers and placing them here at the city facilities. So technically, we don't really have a site here. AT&T could kick us out at any time, and we've been trying to negotiate with them as far as getting back on the site. But in my opinion, a better public safety model is we'd like to co-locate with local cities and local governments or on county property for communications. Especially existing sites. It saves money for everyone involved, including, the JPA, which you guys basically pay our bills. As far as I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Let me ask you a question then while you're thinking. So would we have better coverage for our police, fire, and ambulance with those new antennas on, if they were on our tower instead of AT&T?
Same. Well,
Same?
same type of footprint. The two towers are, the two heights, antenna heights are relatively same. We wouldn't be improving them because we would be adding, there would be an improvement because we would be adding modern, updating antennas, getting higher gain, newer equipment, gives us better sensitivity for officer safety when they're talking on the portables, which, 20, 30 years ago, there was no such thing as portable radios. You were just had, the officer just had a mobile. Same thing with the fire
And part
departments.
of the problem, Kurt, is, and I don't know how we'll ever alleviate the problem, is City of Newman sits in a hole.
Exactly.
We sit in a hole. And that's why, and that's one of the reasons why, and the two voting receiver machines that are in that tower belong to the city.
Correct.
And those were purchased because the handheld portable packs was a problem. And that's why we went with the T1 line and the voting receivers in that tower, and because it improved that aspect of radio communications. There are still dead spots in this town, and I don't know that those, I don't know that those whip antennas are going to improve those, because there was a quite lengthy study done, and I spent a lot of time with Raymond Gata from Ray's Radio,
Exactly. We've
trying to
done-
make a lot of adjustments and trying to improve our radio reception, both in and out, both channel 1, channel 3, and all the other channels, and we finally got to a point where it was acceptable, where we weren't having as many problems once the two voting receivers were put in. That tended to correct a lot of problems.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the issues you're talking about, and one of them is the new antenna design up on the mountaintop. We're replacing all the antennas, going to a directional antennas. They've been engineered and designed to cover the county and focus our energy in the county for maximum coverage in our area and eliminate coverage outside, trying to be good neighbors with other users. The improved, I'm not going to say it's the solution but this is step one, phase one of this will improve communications.
Well, I don't claim to know everything about it, but I was intimately involved with that whole thing for over 20 years, and so I have a pretty good understanding how it works.
Okay.
I'm not a radio geek, but I have a pretty good understanding. And the biggest issue we have is our city sits in a hole. And those of us who were around during the flood years can testify to that, because when we flooded right in the floodplain. And that's when we really found that we were really in a hole. And
Exactly.
Because the radios were ghosting a lot off of OSO, and we couldn't get out on our radios, and then was finally, when I looked at the maps and sat down with Ray Gata, he just basically showed me, you guys are in a hole. There's not a whole lot we can do to improve that reception, so be as it may.
The other part of this is we're willing to work with City of Newman on cost. If we want to put a meter in for this facility, we will. So as far as the cost on installing we will be picking up all the cost on installation of it. With other cities, Patterson has a voting receiver in it. Oakdale, with agreement currently with the City of Oakdale they're allowing us to put their existing tower at Station 2 and installing the equipment in their equipment room, and we paid for an upgrade to their AC system. Part of this of our plans is to help clean up the existing structure at the water tower as far as redressing lines, bringing up things up to code, upgrading grounding, adding lightning protection. As far as we'd be willing to, if another vendor wanted to use this facility or use this, we'd be more than willing to work with you guys on giving them a place to put their equipment in the shed. So our number one priority we're trying to do is improve communications for officer safety.
I think, no, I appreciate your presentation, and I think as the city manager said, I think we've got a little more research to do on both sides and, see, I'd be all in favor for it if we really were gonna get an upgrade and better service on all our, police, fire, and ambulance we have now. I think that's a little unclear still, and as he said, we're gonna find out a little more information about any other services out there also from other vendors and.
Sure. And on a personal note, if you need anything I can do to help you out technically with communications for the city, or I'd be more than willing to help you. I did work with Sergeant Inati and Gustine and did some coverage studies on for FCC licensing and other technical questions. So
Appreciate that.
thank you for your time.
Any further questions?
Any other
Thank you,
questions?
Mr. Gunn. Thank you very much for
Thank you.
coming this evening.
Mayor, I'll just add on to that. So at this point in time, the chief and I will continue to explore all the options that are available to the community, continue to educate ourselves about services. Really, what I'm hearing right now is they have the option to go back on the AT&T tower, but sounds to me like there's some lease issues that are involved with that. So they
Part of the issue with AT&T is they didn't want just anybody going into their cell site.
right.
So I had exclusive use to it, and I was, for a long time, had the only key to the site. And I was allowed to go in there. Well, I was allowed to take people in there, but I had to be with them, and I had to call their security to let them know that we're going into the building. And so they're very, very particular about who goes into their cell sites. And so that might be part of the issue as well.
Yeah, and so we'll try to flesh out all of those and bring this issue back before the council in an expedited manner. Unfortunately, I just don't have a timetable for you at this time, but we will apprise you of this issue at our next meeting.
Very good. Thank you. Supervisor DeMartini, I appreciate you coming again. You always come and give us an update. Would you like to give us the latest scoop on what's happening?
Good evening, Mayor Fanazia, council members. It's always nice of you to call on me every time. I have a few things that I can go over. There's always plenty of stuff going on the west side. Councilman Prinklaw had asked for some weight restrictions on Easton Road. County is looking into that from Stir Road to Highway 33. And I talked to the Director of Public Works today, and I think we're doing the study on it now. It's most likely to be approved within the next week or so. So it looks okay to us, so at this time. Crow's Landing Naval Air Base development. There's negotiations, of course, are going on now with the county and the developer West Park. Negotiations are going along very slow. We expect them to because we have agreed on the timelines and the footprint of the project. The developer has until April 8th to submit his project to the county. And by submitting the project, he has to have all the infrastructure, show us where everything is at and how it's going to work. It has not been back to the board for any kind of update since we started. I expect it will be pretty soon, but as I say, we have a long ways to go with this developer. Had it been the Perot Group, it still would have been the same timeline. So we're about where we thought we would be at this time, and it's up to the developer to submit the plan. It's not up to the county. So we are meeting with him this Thursday again, and we meet second and fourth Thursdays in the afternoon. So they are continuing to go. We still, of course, have quite a ways to go. County has been negotiating with CAL FIRE to site a building facility there on the base. That is coming along all right. They did send us a letter today, a formal letter saying that they are interested in it. This is the second letter we've received from CAL FIRE. This one was just received yesterday. I saw it this morning. So I believe that we're going to be able to work out some deal with CAL FIRE over a facility on the air base also. So that's where we're at on the air base. For the West Side Healthcare Task Force, we'll be meeting in Patterson, Patterson on May 31st. I realize that Mayor Fantasia has a conflict that day, but that's always going to happen with the group. As you know, this healthcare task force consists of Newman, Patterson, and Gustine, plus the healthcare districts of Del Puerto and the West Side. We have the agendas will be mailed out tomorrow, and we have quite a bit on the agenda to go over. What we are trying to do now is see what type of facilities might work here. At the last meeting, we did come up with the footprint of the project, of what the district would look like. We're going to bring that up this time to be sure everyone is okay with the size of the project, stopping just outside of Gustine, pretty much going from Vernalis to Gustine. And then we will, we have one presentation that will be given on possible building alternatives. And although this has a long ways to go, we are making progress. This will only be our second meeting, but judging from what we've been able to put together for the agenda, it really looks pretty good. The only other thing I would mention is that the ag element is back in committee. We will be submitting it back to the board. There was a few things that we did not have done, but we said we weren't going to have it done, but the board wanted it done, so it's back in committee. It's a very important and significant land use change from what the county has done in the past, requiring developer mitigation for farmland. This is something that I would really like to see the cities in the future take up too, because the county, of course, has no jurisdiction over the cities, and when we require the developer to replace the land that he's taken through an easement, I think this might be a way to protect at least some of our agricultural industry, which is a $2 billion a year industry. So it is something that eventually that myself and the Ag Committee will probably ask the cities to give an opinion on, non-binding, of course. We'll probably send out a letter within the next month. Okay, and that's all I have.
Mr. Supervisor, one correction, that was Farmer Crinklaw, not Councilman Crinklaw. Request for that Eastern Road.
Oh, okay.
Getting
Yeah, I
preferential
know it
treatment.
wasn't on your official capacity, but
It's getting preferential treatment there, Jim, on the roads, or keep an eye on them there.
well, I guess he farms down the road now. Of course,
Yeah, I knew that was in.
uh,
I knew there was something there.
He did not ask for that as a member of the council,
Oh,
but
okay.
just as somebody who farms on the road. So we did take a look at it, and we think it probably makes more sense to have large trucks go through to Highway 33. It can handle the weight rather than Easton Road. If it gets torn up with the trucks, who knows when we'll be able to fix it. We spend everything we can on the roads, but there's 1,600 miles to do, so it's it takes a while to get around to everything if there's a problem. It's better to keep heavy trucks on roads that are made to take the weight. And Stir Road and Highway 33 can take the weight of big trucks, and Easton Road really can't. But I do note the correction.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jim. Ted, are you able to? You're going to that healthcare meeting?
Oh, yes.
Okay, good. Items from city manager and staff.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just pleased to announce, that our CSO position has started, and when Chief Ulibarri gets up here, maybe he can speak a little bit more about what's entailed right now during his training period. With that, I'm going to move on. Next issue is the budget. We will have your budget prepared for you. We're hoping by the end of next week, and then that will be scheduled for a June 12th public hearing. The decision of the council, do you feel you need a workshop beforehand to go over this information? I think last time we did it about an hour workshop before the meeting. So we had a workshop from 6 to 7, a budget workshop. And then it was scheduled for adoption on your agenda at 7, in that agenda. And then you had the option to either approve it or to modify it or to send it back to staff for approval at the second meeting in June. So is that something that the council would like to see again? A 6 p.m. start on the 12th? And have 6 p.m. start. We could have an hour workshop on the budget. I don't know that we'll need a full hour. I think last time we used about half an hour, and then Charles drew it out to about an hour. And I can say that because he's not.
No.
He's in San Diego. He's not watching.
But you're not bitter, right?
Yeah. So, anyways, the budget's in the same format. I think it's very user friendly. I think the comments from the council last year were that they did like the format that we had it in, and it seemed to be easy to read and follow. So we're going to follow that format, and we'll have that ready to you no later than the end of next week, and get that out to you. So
that would be
if we can get
fine
that
with
early,
me, yeah.
we're sending it to the printers tomorrow.
Okay.
So we just had to wait for today to see what happened with the police car. And then we're ready to move forward with that.
Yeah, that would be fine with me. I don't know how everybody else feels about that 6 o'clock meeting.
Yes.
First meeting in June. It's like everyone concurs. Michael, looks like you have on here designate 2 plaza committee representatives.
Oh, yeah.
Take care of that.
Forgot that.
Before we move on there.
As we're getting ready to reconvene the Plaza Committee, and basically it's an offshoot from the Streetscape Committee. I believe Councilmember Marquez and Mayor Fantasia was on there. So we're wanting to see if the mayor was still wanting to continue on that committee.
Yeah,
and
I'd like
to have a second committee member if so desired by the council to be added.
Yeah, I would like to continue that since I started it and we're just changing the name of it to continue on. And I would be.
Councilman Kelly would be a fine member.
He's not going to wear shorts, is he? Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Guys, if you want
How about it,
I'll
Ted?
do it.
Good, thank
I'm
you.
a lonely guy. Who's not doing night, so.
He wants to go to another meeting. I say we let him.
Another meeting, I'll be kind of.
We need a vote.
John.
Everyone concurs with that.
Okay.
Continue back. Michael, I'm sorry to interrupt if you had any more staff things or.
Thanks for pointing that out. The only other item that I had was I was reading Sacramento Bee this weekend, and because I was up in the area, and the article on the Port of Oakland. As you know, the master developer for Crow's Landing is looking at bringing short haul rail into Crow's Landing from Port of Oakland. What this article centered on was the lack of inspectors at the Port of Oakland, and how when they do inspect stuff, they always find insects, larvae, and other things that from other countries that could be detrimental to agriculture. So I found that interesting that we would be willing to accept these cargo containers unopened and they come and open them in the valley when that potential is there. So that's something that, I'm glad the supervisor brought that up. I believe it's in Saturday's or Sunday's Sacramento Bee. It's a great article I think you should take a look at, because if we are looking, or the county is looking at bringing containers from out of the country into the San Joaquin Valley and then opening up those containers and then distributing them, there could be some environmental concerns with opening those containers if some of those larvae and insects escaped and made it out into our agricultural areas. And when, I was young at the time, but the Mediterranean fruit fly, that still sticks in my brain. Those helicopters flying over. I don't know if they flew over me or not, but seen him on the news and stuff like that.
That's what happened.
Yeah. So anyways, I just
No, that's a good point, yeah.
just the supervisor was here, so I kind of tied those two, that article and this other one together. I meant to bring it for you guys, but with that, that's all that I had. The rest of the information I have to cover with you is in closed sessions.
Other staff reports this evening? Everybody's pointing at each other out there. Oh,
I have a little bit of a show and tell for you this evening. Utility work is ongoing on Yolo Street. AT&T has put in new poles, new cables, and here they're splicing in the wires at the alley between P Street and Q Street. Next picture, please. One of the biggest issues that they have is like this power pole that's there at the corner of Q Street and Yolo and Fig. As you know, Fig Lane and Q Street offset as they merge there at Yolo. So it creates issues with them installing their guy wires and their poles. But in speaking with the AT&T engineer, he says that the drop dead date for them is June 1. So he expects to be done sooner, but that would be the very last day. So the notice to proceed will be issued next week. I wanted to show you the new sod installation, the mowless grass over on Sherman Parkway. This is standing at Barrington looking to the east. As you can see, that looks very nice. The next one is from Cinnamon Teal looking to the north along the channel. And then the very last one is there at Hills Ferry Road and Sherman Parkway. And so as you can see that they've completed all that sod installation. Unlike the original installation that they did over in the old Hearthstone Ranch subdivision where they seeded it and they had a lot of issues with the weeds growing up with the grass, we don't expect to have much of those problems with this project.
Can I bring up something, Mike Wilson? I walk on that Sherman Parkway every day, and out there on that side from down toward Highway 33, I don't know if that grass is just drying up or if it's not getting enough water, but that grass in there is not in good shape. I think they need to do something about that.
This afternoon in talking with the Public Works Superintendent, he did state that they had looked at it because the grass was turning a little brown, and he checked the sprinkler system, and it seems like he doesn't know if it was the original people who were taking care of that area, but that the sprinklers had been reduced down from the watering of at least 5 to 7 days a week down to just 2. But that has been corrected, and so they've gone in there and they're putting the water to it, and that was the reason for it. But it has been corrected.
Well, I haven't seen anybody out there doing anything on that for quite a long time now. I don't know who has responsibility for it, but nobody seems to be doing anything with it.
Ernie, I had a question on the grass. How is that maintained as far as, it looks really great. Is it actually cut, or is it just the type of grass that only grows so high and you don't have to go in and cut the grass?
It only grows so high and it grows so thick that chokes out most of the weeds. However, once in a while you do get some clumps of Johnson grass, and the contractor it is his responsibility to go out there and clean that out. In the smaller areas where you do have those small bushes in there, in those areas, you're supposed to keep all the weeds sprayed down, because there's some actual bark in there where, or a dirt area where some of the water has washed away the bark. But that's what the grass is, mowless, so that's the reason why we installed it, so it would be low maintenance.
Ernie, can you talk a little bit about the seed pods that we see right now?
That's the other issue that a lot of even my office assistant, she brought this up to me last year when she said it seems like there's a lot of weeds growing along Sherman Parkway. Well, it isn't. I had to take her and show her so that whenever she got calls to the office, she would be able to explain to them. What the NOMO does, it's put out some shoots, and those are seeds that grow on the heads of those shoots, and then they dry out, and then they fall, and they drop down, and they grow additional grass. If you just drive by, it looks like it's just dry weeds growing out of there, but it isn't. It is the grass regenerating itself. And once they dry and they break off, then you see the nice grass below, and it just keeps rejuvenating itself.
So there is a period of time you'll see, you know, at the Hearthstone stretch of Sherman Parkway where it looks a little messy. You'll say, "Wow, the city's not taking care of it." That's the natural regeneration of the mollis sod, and that's all part of it. So. And that'll occur in this particular area as well as it continues to grow over there. So.
Ernie, real fast, since we were talking about Hearthstone, refresh my memory about the portion of the wall along the railroad tracks. I know they were doing some work along through there too. You know, the borders of railroad tracks, the north and south there.
What happened there was when the plans were submitted to do that area in there, the developer planted some trees along there, and when the plans were submitted to PG&E, they overlooked the fact that there were some power lines running along the wall within that area. And so when, excuse me, when the forestation unit of PG&E went by and saw the trees growing, they issued an order right away to have all those trees removed. So we went and we talked to SCM about it, and they said that they would have all those trees removed. So recently, maybe a month or so ago, they went in there and they pulled out all those trees, and then they went in and put some clumps of sod back in there to fill in those holes. So that's actually what happened there, and that's why it looks a little raggedy in there. But if those trees had not been removed, then we would have been responsible at a later date to have a lot of work done to trim them and keep them
Below the power lines, yeah.
15 feet below the power lines, and those lines are really low.
Okay, that's all I had.
One question.
Sure.
The restroom facilities like Sherman Park and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
they're kept open during the day.
Yes, they are.
And I was over there on the weekend. I have to tell you, whoever's ever taken care of them, doing a fantastic job. They're absolutely spotless.
Well, thank you. My guys are going out there even on the weekends, and they open them and they close them in the evenings.
They were
Great.
about the cleanest public restrooms I've ever seen.
Well, thank you. I'll let my guys know.
Yeah, fantastic.
Thank you, Ernie. No more cars, Chief. No more cars.
And that concludes my report. I'd just like to piggyback on City Manager's comment about Edgar Lopez, our new Community Service Officer. He has started his second week of orientation, and we're just getting into the training aspect. He'll probably be in training for the next 6 to 8 weeks. He doesn't have any prior law enforcement experience. He's right out of college. So he's learning everything from how we use the phonetic alphabet to the TIN code. It's really basic, and we're building up on it. I am happy to report that he has towed his first 2 abandoned vehicles, which prompted a call to my office on a complaint. But as we move forward with this is going to occur because we are stepping up abandoned vehicle enforcement, code enforcement throughout the city of Newman. And we're going to deal with a lot of blight issues and quality of life issues. But he's being trained up. We're in the process of, like I reported earlier, getting him a vehicle and getting that up and running. And that'll just take a couple weeks to get all that up and running. But hopefully within the next month or so, we'll be able to kick him out on his own. And as I found a saying, he can go forth and multiply. But yes, I'm really, really proud of where we're at right now with that program. On the hiring front, currently we have 4 vacant positions in the police department, and we have 2 people in backgrounds, and we're hoping to have those backgrounds completed within the next 3 to 4 weeks, so we can get those experienced officers on the street. And then that will still leave us with 2 more vacant positions that we're trying to fill. I'll be interviewing another applicant week after next to see if we can fill those positions also. I had the honor of speaking with Dean Harris, the reporter, who came down the office last Friday, and he said, Chief, I'd heard that there's some vacant positions in the police department, and I want to talk to you about it. So we had a conversation about...
Dean was looking for a job or another job?
Touche. So we talked about the impacts of having vacant positions in the police department, and impacts, not being able to provide the proactive services we'd like to provide with increased traffic enforcement. I'd love to see our patrol cars in the neighborhoods more often, and things along those lines. So that's what I talked about as far as what we do when we have vacant positions. Our strategy, of course, is always to have quick response time to urgent calls and emergency calls, and always looking forward to ways to decrease our response time to those emergency calls. So I just want the council to know that we're working very hard to fill those positions as quickly as possible.
Chief, I've got a question for you before you leave, please.
Sure.
Now that we're initiating our code enforcement, stepping that up, one of the things that we were very adamant about doing was to educate and inform people. What are we doing along those lines before we proceed down this too much further?
Right.
I realize, I apologize, you weren't here when all this was brought to light, but I just wanted to bring it up so you could discuss with Michael if you haven't done that already.
Yes, thank you. Michael and I have had numerous discussions about that. As a matter of fact, he's given me the pleasure of writing a 200-word article, and I have to keep the 200 words, to introduce Edgar Lopez to the community and the concept of the code enforcement officer, community service officer, and using education to gain compliance. Because I'd rather use the education component to gain compliance rather than the sanctions of citations and so on and so forth. And we're strategizing the educational campaign, how to best get the word out there and get it out there on a sustained effort in front of Edgar as much as possible. Yes.
Thank you. That's the direction that we want to go.
And I appreciate the opportunity to put this out in front of the community right now tonight.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, thank you.
Any other staff reports? I think Stephanie already gave hers.
Terry's out for the night.
Terry's out. Okay.
I've got one more question for Stephanie, if I could, please.
If she'd like to come up, sure. She thought she was done for the night.
Staff
Okay.
report. Stephanie, one of the things that's been a concern, particularly in the fire department, is an updated city map. And I know there's been some discussion. I would just like to find out where that is in the works. The fire department has, again, asked me to inquire about that.
Recently, I believe through Regional 911, we acquired a new 911 map that has all the complete addresses, and I believe it includes the new subdivisions. We are in the process of going and getting that laminated. I can try to get some copies for the fire department for them, for their fire bay, if they'd like.
If you could, or possibly contact the chief and see if that's what they've been looking for.
Definitely.
Before you move some work, I'd certainly appreciate it.
No problem.
Thank you.
Councilman, I think we also bought like a Thomas Brothers map book that shows the entire city on there, and that's what the police officers use. So my understanding was that the police department was going to provide a copy of that to the fire department, and we'll make sure that that happens if it has not happened already.
Thank you. Either that or I'll get burnt tri-tip next time.
Mine was very well.
Mine
Very good
was
the other
delicious.
night, by the way.
If you didn't partake in that, you missed out. It was
great.
Very good.
Items from city council members. Mike, just continue on there.
Thank you very much. Recently in the paper, the city of Patterson requested a meeting with the developer of the Crow's Landing project. I would like to find out if you would contact the city of Patterson to see us as a council, if we could be there in attendance at that meeting. I think it'd be to our best interest to firsthand be there and listen and ask any questions that we have. And I just open this up quickly to the rest of the councilmen if they think that that's something that we should do.
No, that would be great if they're gonna have one, sure.
If I might, I think that'd be beneficial. You know, Crow's Landing or Patterson has their issues are substantially different from ours with respect to Crow's Landing and the rail that's going through their town, and they're really probably going to attack that hard. I'd like to have the Mr. Camillus come and personally meet with our council, just like he's doing with the Patterson Council. You know, I'll be honest with you, I'm a little taken aback that, you know, they haven't contacted us yet. You know, they spent some time and done some things in Patterson, and they haven't really come to Newman yet. So, but we have some inside people into their group, so I'm sure we'll be getting a phone call soon.
I think that would probably be even better yet. I think the more we know about it, whatever affects Patterson directly or indirectly is going to affect us, so I think
Sure.
that's important. Thank you. The second issue I have is we all received letters from Jim Bassett on the dam for flood control. And, you know, I've known Jim for a long time. He's been a resident of this area, and when it comes to somebody that has history of the Oristimba Creek and the flooding and all that, probably your best experience you can get. And, you know, he's exactly right. The problem with Oristimba Creek flooding is not potentially going to be alleviated by a dam upstream. As you know very well, Mr. Mayor, the problem comes in the bottleneck at the railroad. And maybe it's time to switch gears a little bit from the city of Newman and be talking to the railroad and see if we can get them or co-participate in changing the structure of that railroad trestle, because it's pillars going straight down and the first floating tree goes down there, creates a dam, and we're right back in knee-deep water. Yep. So,
Yeah, you're right, and we have, that's part of our ongoing effort is to get the railroad involved too, now that we're getting closer on a fix, but that has to be part of the fix also.
and I'd like to thank Jim Bassett for this letter. Everything he said in there is just exactly right, and it's right on. So, thank you. Concludes my comments.
Thank you, Mike. Bob?
I have none tonight, Mayor.
Nothing? Thank you. Ted?
The only thing I'd like to say is congratulations to the softball team, the girls softball team, undefeated. That is amazing. And they went out in a blaze of glory. I mean, when you beat the other team 10-0 and they have to stop it in 5 innings, that's, you didn't squeak in. You went in with power, and I love it. So I don't know what we can do as a council or as a town, but that should definitely be recognized. I know the school board hopefully will do something, but undefeated is very difficult in any sport. And so I'd like to see us do something. I don't know what we can do, but recognize these girls somehow. And the coaches
Absolutely.
especially.
We could do the standard mayor's proclamation, but I think we need to do more than that even.
Yeah, that's a big
Punch
thing
and
for
cookies.
Newman.
Punch and cookies, Bob said. Bob's ready for punch and cookies. His favorite, punch and cookies.
Never feed you.
Rita doesn't make cookies, Bob?
I have pasta tonight.
Ted, anything else?
No, that's.
Thank you. Ed?
Well, I would agree with Ted. I went and watched the last 2 games of the championship game and the game before, and they're the real deal. They are the real deal. It's a great accomplishment, and 26-0 is in any sport is difficult. So I also would like to congratulate the Warriors. They did away with our neighbors to the north in fashion.
Don't mention
Yeah.
that when you call them about our joint meeting.
Patterson is 0 for 5 against Warriors in softball. Also, Chief, I'd like to just thank you. I've seen you in the community out and about walking, and I'm not in town that much anymore, but I've had a couple business owners comment to me that they appreciate you stopping in their business and visiting with them, so I think that was sorely needed. as well as the officers, and you meeting with the officers and getting them in the community is a big step, so thank you for that. I appreciate that. One other thing is just remind everybody, Tosca banquet's tomorrow. I'm vice president this year of Tosca, and we'll be doling out over $75,000 in scholarships tomorrow night. So that banquet starts at 6:30 at Yolo Middle School. Get your tickets. That's all I have.
Great. And Ed is right, Chief. I had a couple compliments from citizens downtown and business people. They wanted to know who's the nicely dressed gentleman walking down the street, and one of them was my wife that wanted to know, so I explained it to her, and she said, I kind of thought that might be him. He was very nicely dressed, she said, to compliment you.
We know, maybe you won't be our police chief, but we'd certainly like to clone you.
Absolutely. And just one other thing, this Thursday we have a chamber mixer at Infinity Salon downtown, where the old Perry's Pizza used to be, Darlene Catano, 6 o'clock. Everyone's welcome. And I believe we had a new thing on our agenda this month, calendar of events, which is very helpful. Kind of reminds the council and people to get our agenda, what upcoming things happening the rest of this month and next month. So that's very helpful. And I believe that's all that I had. With that, we will